My favorite thing about Peeples was either recess or PE every couple of days.
Anthony, why is your favorite thing recess?
Because it let us release some energy and hang out with friends and play sports.
Do you get to have recess at middle school?
No.
How often do you get to have PE?
Every 9 weeks.
Every 9 weeks?
Yeah, if you're lucky, you get PE every 9 weeks.
Every 2
Okay.
weeks.
That's all I go for.
My favorite thing about Peeples was just being able to go to recess every day because it gave you a chance at some point in the day just to go outside and just play around. And then maybe also like just PE, just showing up and playing.
I really liked all the teachers at Peeples. They were all very sweet, tried to understand and were very patient. They're still like that today. They still remember all their kids, all the kids that they had. Still very wonderful.
I personally like the cubbies in the back of the room. When you get in middle school, you have to be really prepared before you go to class. If you're in elementary school, you can just kind of walk back there if you forget something and just grab it without the teacher really knowing. Middle school, you can get in trouble if you forget it. And also in elementary school, you get to know the teacher a whole lot better. Whether in middle school, you kind of divide it up between 7 teachers, so you really kind of bond with your teacher, and she kind of understands sometimes when you don't get everything done. And Fridays, enjoy them with the no homework. That's going to change very soon. You're going to have projects due and homework. And
Nathan, where do you keep your things in middle school if you don't have a cubby?
you have a locker. Sometimes, depending on the 9 weeks, you have several. I know you've got a school one for all of your academics. You've got PE, PA, fitness. You've got a gym one. And if you play any sports after school, you have football lockers, basketball lockers. So.
One of my favorite things about Peeples was all the special days. You don't get read all day day, you don't get pajama day, you don't get crazy hair day, you don't get crazy sock day in middle school. So really have fun with those. We have Red Ribbon Week where we dress up like something for each day, but that's it.
Okay, I like all like the special events and stuff, like field day and like, I don't know if they still do this or not, but there was one time when we got to duct tape a teacher to the wall. That was really, really fun, and you know, they were pretty serious and stuff in middle school.
The food at Peeples, enjoy it. I mean, Rising Star, you've got a whole lot more choices. You don't have to put your stick in a can like you did at Peeples. You kind of just walk in and you can buy the really high-priced food or the really cheap $2 food. It's all up to you, but enjoy the special days where you can eat special things, kind of like the
Mother's Day muffins
and
so
the holiday ones like the Thanksgiving,
and the Christmas.
Now, you mentioned one thing you really like to eat for lunch at Peeples.
Pancakes.
Enjoy them.
And the fries.
Enjoy those. Those are like, the hot dogs don't get much better, but the pancakes, they just disappear.
Peeples really prepared me for middle school by helping me write my agenda, because every day in middle school, if you don't write things down, you usually forget, and then there's consequences if you forget to do stuff.
What kind of consequences are there, Alyssa?
Well, you can get a strike or a 0 on that assignment, or you could even have to go to working lunch to work on that.
One of the things that Peeples did that prepared us for middle school was when we had more than one teacher for classes in elementary school, because a lot of our friends that were from other schools, they didn't have that, and it was a lot more difficult for them to get used to it.
Peeples taught me good study habits and how to get work done like on time, so I don't have any late assignments.
Peeples taught me how to like do my homework, because when you didn't, there was like less consequences, like not going to recess. But in middle school, if you don't do it, you get like a 0 on the assignment.
Okay, when they did Mad Minutes and stuff, I hated those back then, but now I'm like like the lore that we're doing them, that we did them, because now I know like all that stuff that's really comes easily to me. And you're going to need it like a lot when you're doing like all this kind of long division and like find this and that from X and whatever.
For me, the biggest subject area that Peeples prepared us for was English, and especially writing, because we always had to do journals and we always had lots of writings to turn in, and our teachers coached us through that and taught us how to be better writers, and that helped a lot in middle school when we have the writing tests.
Enrichment was a lot of help for kind of seeing the middle school, because the Shakespeare and the Alice in Wonderland, it helped you learn how to read as a class and kind of look at a book critically. The hands-on equations, those aren't that fun in elementary school, but they help so much. That's probably the thing I'm most glad I had in elementary school, because just even in 6th grade, 7th grade, you're doing all that, but you don't get to do it with those fun little pawns and dice and stuff. So make sure you pay attention to the hands-on equations if you're in enrichment.
And this is mainly for the 5th graders. You guys are kind of doing graphs and putting stuff with different coordinates. Pay attention. That it's almost 7th and 8th grade, mainly 8th grade's almost a repeat of 5th grade math with a little bit more work, but it's still very basic. Yeah, the 5th grade math really helps you for the 6th grade math or advanced math.
I think they taught me a lot of those math facts, this multiplying stuff. That really helped in 6th and 7th grade, because we need to have those vast math facts. And also science. I learned a lot because science was one of the challenging subjects, so it kind of got me ahead in 6th grade.
One of the biggest things at Peoples is that all the teachers really stress putting your name on it, and they'll give you another chance to put your name on a paper, but in middle school you won't get that chance. So that's a really big lesson that you really need to learn in elementary school, so that you don't get zeros on your paper.
People's really prepared me in all the subjects, but specifically in English, because it really taught us like how to write and stuff. And also in enrichment, we did Cedars English, and a lot of those words appeared again in 7th and 8th grade and helped too.
One of the things that you do in 4th and 5th grade, and you kind of start in 3rd, is the 25 reading goal, 25 book reading goal. It's not expelling words, it keeps going all the way through middle school. Just go ahead and get in the habit, learn to love to read. I remember in 5th grade, I absolutely hated the reading goal. In 4th grade, I failed it, but like in 6th grade, my first year, I really learned how to read. I finished my entire book goal before Thanksgiving. I mean, it's just something, as you get older, you'll just learn to read. Sometimes you'll actually end up loving it. It's just, you get into the habit of reading when you have to, and when you have the chance, that we don't have to read later when you want to go outside and play.
The hardest thing about middle school is you have a lot more homework and a lot more tests. So it's good to review your notes daily, so it'll help you on the test.
I think the hardest thing about middle school is the transition between like maturity, and you have a lot more responsibilities like homework on the weekends, and if you don't do those, it'll hurt your grade really bad. And the drama too.
What do you mean the drama?
Like, it's just a lot more stuff happens in middle school than,
Like with friends?
yeah, friends.
Pick your friends. Like, the friends thing, kind of, who you're friends with in 5th grade does not mean you're going to be friends in 6th or 7th, mainly 7th. I mean, you kind of grow away from your old friends sometimes. I mean, I still have a lot of good friends from Peoples, but you make a whole lot more friends in other schools, and you kind of hang out with them. They actually kind of, once you get a little bit older, they start kind of drawing borders almost between like groups. There's some groups that just, so make sure you pick your friends wisely in 6th grade. Make sure you really try and go with the best group you think, I guess you could say. That's one of the biggest things, is making sure you don't get stuck or make good friends with the people that will let you down later.
For me, For me, it was really, really hard to socialize, harder to socialize in middle school than it was in the thing, and you have to kind of learn that not everyone's going to be your best friend. You have to kind of accept that, and the sooner you do, the easier it's going to be for you.
I think one of the hardest things to transitioning into middle school was always being prepared for class. If you like didn't have something, it would be like a strike or put on the discipline log.
So, Mason, what are some things you did to keep yourself organized?
You just have to just stay organized pretty much.
Yeah. So you just have to make sure you had everything you needed?
Yes.
Okay.
One of the hardest things about middle school is making sure that you have everything for class and getting it in between classes. And one of the big things that helps with that is you get a whiteboard or you get a piece of paper for like the first couple weeks of school, and you put it in your locker, and it tells you everything you need for each class, like period after period. And that way you can grab it and go so that you're not late to class. And then once you get used to it, it's not such a big deal anymore, but you just have to make sure to make a big point about it so that you get everything you know.
Like, there's been a few hard things transitioning into middle school. Like, in elementary school, like, most of the stuff you do in class. So you think, okay, so I don't really need to study that much. But in middle school, you really need to study, because if you don't, it will come back eventually. Yeah, you got to keep organized. Like, you got to know where everything is in your locker. So in case, even if you're not prepared and that you have to go back to your locker, you can just grab it and go.
One of the hardest things I've noticed for some people seems to be a sleep schedule. People just like play with their friends, stay up forever doing homework, and I noticed even today people are like falling asleep during class especially. I don't know why. So just make sure you get your homework done first and then try, because otherwise you're not going to be able to pay attention the next day.
On top of what Jack was saying, yeah, the teachers, it's not going to be one teacher throughout the day. So if you've got tests a day, it's not sometime in the day, it's at a certain period, we call it, and the teacher won't let you have extra study time. Like if you would have just one teacher in a day, they can sometimes bend their schedule a little bit to give you another 15 minutes of study time, rearrange maybe a class or two, because you've only got one or two teachers. I mean, I remember one of my teachers would just give us extra time before the test. The teachers need their hour-ish period. You're gonna walk in. If you're lucky, you'll be able to open your book before you get the test on your table, and then right after the test, you'll hand it in and you'll start a new unit. So get organized and study.
Okay, one of the biggest things about middle school is star time. After you get out of elementary school, you kind of feel like you're not getting recess, and a lot of people try to make star time into like another recess, but that's not what you should be doing. You should be studying for tests that are coming up or doing your homework, so that way when you get home you can do the other things that you need to do.
Is star time also a time you can get some extra help?
Yes, if you need help in certain classes, you can get passes to go to those teachers to help you, and it is really academic time out of the day.
Going back to what Ben just said, like, you can, wait, yeah, no, Nathan just said, like, a minute ago, like, teachers, like, sometimes, like, during the day, you won't really have much in reading, so they'll shorten the reading time, and then instead just go back to a different class, like, say, social studies, so you can study a little bit more for the test coming up.
Mm-hmm. So that doesn't happen in middle school, huh?
No. Like, in middle school, you have a set schedule so that you only get, like, 45 minutes per class. And you'll sometimes before a test, you'll get, like, 2 or 3 minutes before just to, like, get a quick look at what you're supposed to use. But other than that, you'll just walk in and get a pencil out and start taking the test.
Alright, one of the hardest things about middle school also is, like, when you get into 6th grade, you start to drift away from your parents. Well, I would suggest you stay close because they know what they're talking about. I just realized that. but don't make the same mistake I did.
So you mean all that advice that parents are giving to their kids,
Yeah,
they
it might
actually know
sound
what
really,
they're talking
it
about?
may really sound dumb, because I thought it did too, but then they know what they're talking about at the end.
Especially about drama.
Yeah.
Listen to your parents about drama. That's
Now, when you say drama, you don't mean acting, do you? You mean
no,
like
I mean
drama
like
going on between friends?
drama between friends and relationships. When you in 5th grade, you get more in relationships, like boyfriend-girlfriend relationships. Listen to your parents about those. I mean, yeah, I'd never understand those relationships. They just end up bad. But just listen to your parents. If your parents say no, don't go off crying. It's for your own benefit. And you may think you like somebody, or some of you might actually think you love somebody. But in about a month, or when you actually see who they really are, sometimes it changes. You don't like them, and you get your feelings hurt, or some say they're heartbroken. I've just seen people in absolute misery because of it, so listen to your parents. They can really save you in the long run.
In middle school, it's really important to keep your locker clean and tidy, because if it's like all jammed in there, then you can't find certain things you need for a certain class, and it ends up getting you in trouble, or you're late for class or something like that.
About your agenda, use your agenda planner thing. If you don't use it, if you don't write down every quiz, every assignment when it's due, you're gonna forget something. And out to everybody, and use it during every class. You're not gonna remember everything when you're packing up to go home. That's what everyone always says when we're packing up. They're like, "What's the homework for today?" You're not gonna remember all of it. Keep your locker organized, because there's some people who have just gross stuff in the pile. You're not going to be able to find anything. And switching classes in middle school, and there's a lot of things they try and do in elementary school to prepare you for middle school, but it's really very different. Switching classes, when you switch classes in elementary school, you line up outside the hall, and you wait for the teacher to tell you to come in, and then you come in. In middle school, it's kind of just, you're a lot more independent in how you get from place to place. You have to go by your locker, and then you go to school. And there's not as much walking in lines from place to place at all. Like, I know during specials, that was always pretty frustrating. Connections, you just kind of, you go there. There's not as much walking. In the cafeteria, you don't go through in a line. You go there. You go where you sit. You don't always have to sit with your class. You sit kind of by team. And
So I would not recommend going to your locker every period, because you might be late for class, and that would not be good. You could get a strike or alert or whatever they call it now. But I remember 6th grade, like if you got 3, it was like a detention or something. So yeah, you need to take your agenda to every class, even connections. Like it might seem like, oh, I don't really want to carry this, but you might need it anyway. Yeah, you need to keep your locker clean. And another reason why you shouldn't go to your locker every period is you only have about 3 or 4 minutes to get to your next class once you leave it. So
You might need to learn how to take good notes, because notes, you really didn't have to take notes that much in Peeples, because they print something out for you, but notes is really important. And also you need to practice good study habits, because you can't memorize. In elementary school you didn't have to study, but there's so much stuff in middle school that you have to study for it and memorize this stuff. It's important.
One of the biggest things I could say for preparing you for middle school would be to think ahead. And it covers a lot of things. Like, if you know that you have a test in 2 weeks, don't start studying the day before the test. Start studying a week and a half before the test, and that way you get it all built up in your mind as you go. And think ahead in the hallways. Don't talk until you have to get to that class, because the class could be up the hallway, and you never know what could be on your way to getting you there. And the teachers aren't as nice if you're late. So that's really one of the biggest things I could say, is think ahead.
Okay, two things. One, your agenda, your life should be in there. I mean, you should guard it with your life. That thing has everything in it, and it's basically your key to like surviving in middle school. And I didn't do that the first like couple of years, and then it finally clicked with me. Hey, this thing is the most important part of middle school. And another thing, if you're a short person, don't get a top locker if you have the choice. I know that everyone says top lockers are so cool and stuff. Just don't do it. You can't reach anything up there. They're tall.
I think an important thing for middle school is being organized, having good study habits, and using your time wisely.
Alright, you won't really need this as much in 6th grade because you have your connections in 6th and 7th period. But in 7th and 8th grade, you could use this to your advantage. Like, I just started doing this year. But before connections start, you can take your stuff to your next period class, like after your connections, and you can just place it down and take your like agenda or whatever else you need to your connections. But that gives you more time to talk to your friends in the hallway and not be as late into the class, like if you had to go to your locker.
Jack, connections are kind of like specials in elementary school, right?
Yeah.
But they change every 9 weeks, right?
Yeah. You get
what are some examples of connections classes? You get 2 every day?
Yeah. Like you can get PE, art, technology, computer, drama. Yeah.
Study skills.
Yeah, study skills.
Health and fitness.
Health and fitness. Yeah. A lot of different things.
Do you get to pick your connections, or does someone else pick them for you?
You get connections automatically assigned to you.
There's certain
wish
ones.
I had
There's certain ones.
There's certain ones that people like more than others, so they don't let you choose.
You have to have PE or PA, and you have to have health and fitness. If you're taking chorus, orchestra, or band, you have that as a fixed connection for the whole year. So, so you only get one other connection. So you have 2 free connections. Yeah. Well, a lot of people are probably worried about going into middle school. A lot of people are worried about making friends. You're going to make friends, and some people probably you worry about not having everything. The teachers are going to be pretty nice. I mean, and you're probably going to have a lot of stuff. As long as you try a little bit, it's almost harder to not do it well than it is to do it. As long as you give a decent amount of effort, then you're pretty much going to do it. One of the things I was worried about was finding all the classes. They make the middle school really simple for that. Even you just walk in. There's a big rotunda, and everything's all like that. There's a 7th grade hall. Every 7th grade class is on that, and all the teachers and their subject is printed right outside the door. Your lockers are on your hall, so it's really simple to find it. Then there's a 6th grade hall. 6th grade, all the 6th grade stuff is on that one. There's an 8th grade hall. All the 8th grade stuff is there, so you never need to go down another hall. The media center is its own separate thing. You can see it right there. The media center is easy to find. The gym is something like that. They're all halls off of the one. It's like a circle with halls going off of it. The gym's its own hall. That's pretty easy to find. Then there's the office is like its own hall. Then there's a connections hall where pretty much all the connections are. At the end of it is the cafeteria. Yeah, and at the end of that, like to the side is the cafeteria. At the end of that is where you go to the auditorium, and the auditorium connects the middle school to the high school. You're not allowed to go out to the high school, but it's a really simple layout. You don't have to worry about not finding it after 2 weeks. You've got all of it.
One of the biggest things about going to middle school is that every 5th grader that was in my grade that I knew was worried about lockers. And they're not really something to worry about. They're just kind of cubbies with a lock so that people can't steal your stuff. And if you're worried about like not remembering your combination or putting the wrong combination in or going to the wrong locker, it's really easy because on the first week of school you might do that, but for the rest of the year you get into like a pattern, so you know where your locker is without even thinking about it, and you know your combination without even thinking about it. Like you can talk while you do your combination, and it just comes naturally to you. You just have to work at it for the first couple weeks.
Also, if you're having trouble in a certain class, don't hesitate to ask your teachers for help. you like before the test, and if you don't get it, then you can go to a study session that they offer, and then they will help you out as much as they can.
When you guys came for the 5th grade orientation, when you came over, I remember doing that when I was in 5th grade. Looks like a whole lot bigger of a school. You had clubs, and that, I remember that it's going to be weird kind of going in and a bunch of 8th graders mainly showing up and telling you what clubs are, the people that you probably won't even see the next year. Some of the clubs can really range from academic to total non-academic, like Beta Club to Gold Pizza. You'll find that those are pretty much the 2 biggest clubs Rising Star has. Beta Club is a non-voluntary, you have to be selected, and Cold Pizza is a Fellowship of Christian Athletes, which is pretty much everybody that wants to go and have a quick snack and wonder about God. But those are the 2 biggest things, and I can definitely advocate for that, especially Cold Pizza.
Yeah.
It's one of the best ones there is.
Also, when you're in your first day of school in 6th grade, you sit in the gym. It's kind of awkward seeing all those people sitting in one spot and you don't know anybody. Just sit with your friends, try to find a friend to sit next to, and then you'll find a place to sit each and every day, because once you're in 6th grade, you probably sit in the same spot every single day with all your friends.
Yeah, going back on what Alyssa said, like about if you're having trouble in the class, like this year they started a new thing where they posted like a poster board thing with all the teachers' names, and then if it's red, that means that you can't go. If it's yellow, that means that you can go as long as you have a pass. But if it's green, you just have to make sure that the person basically like guarding the doors, I guess, just lets you go past to your teacher. I do that a couple times a week.
So you're talking about in the mornings before school starts?
Yeah, like
you can sometimes go see a teacher?
Yeah. Like you can just go and get help.
One of the biggest things about middle school is don't let it intimidate you. This is just because it's a bigger building with bigger kids. Don't let it intimidate you. It's just a building. You'll learn. It's not really that scary once you get here. It's a step, but it's not really that big of one. I mean, you'll get used to it. You'll kind of go with the flow. It's not something to worry about or to stress over. It's actually pretty fun once you get here. It's different than elementary school, but I've got to say, even though there's a little bit more work and a little bit more stress, it's a whole lot better from the past 3 years. It's just the teachers aren't hanging over your shoulder as much. You have a little bit more freedom as you advance schools, elementary to middle to high school. You get a little bit more freedom and a little bit more, I don't want to say respect, I guess. You have a little bit more responsibility. It's fun, just have a blast. And one of the examples of it is you don't have to, in the mornings, you don't have to wait for the bell to go in. You can get in Rising Star as soon as 6 o'clock for help. It's very free. They really kind of want you to have fun and try and not make it as hard. So just don't be intimidated. I mean, don't stress over it. It's not worth it. It's fun once you get here. Yeah.